Well, if the hat doesn't give away what this video is going to be about today, I can't really help you. I mean, come on. It's right there. It's right there. It's right there on the hat. It's just right. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and I am back with another video today where I will be talking about comics. Most specifically, comics involving my favorite superhero of all time, and that is Batman. Yes, I am a big Batman fan. I've been a big Batman fan my whole life. I even have a tattoo of the Caped Crusader on my leg as proof of my devotion. And also, Zachary Shea made a video talking about comics and recommending it to fantasy fans, and I could not be one-upped on my crusade to bring American comics to the general booktube sphere, which, shout out to Shea, by the way, he's a great guy. But yeah, I'm talking about Batman today. Batman Day is coming up soon, and I knew I had to make a video commemorating the occasion by talking about some Batman comics that I really enjoy and I think would be really good introductions for people who might be curious, have seen a couple of the movies, and are just a bit intimidated by the massive history and all of the great runs that have happened on the character. I was actually inspired by this by my friend John over at Talking Story, booktube uncle himself. It's actually his birthday today as I am recording this, but anyway, so go give him some love over at Talking Story. He also did some recommendations regarding the Caped Crusader. I know he loves the Caped Crusader just as much as I do, maybe a little more than I do, because he's been alive longer than me. And also, shout out to Carlos from StoryTube. He also is a big fan of the Caped Crusader. But anyway, enough stalling. I will be talking about some comics. I will be talking about some Batman comics specifically, and ones that I think would be good introductions to the character for people who might be curious about the character and aren't very familiar and aren't really sure where to start. So hopefully I will be going into that. And also, I won't be bringing up so many of the real famous cuts of Batman, like the Long Halloween or, you know, some of the other comics. I'll put them up below for people who are curious, which I do recommend those comics, by the way. I do recommend them immensely, but these are ones that are generally standalone and ones that I think people could get into without too much of a hassle. So let's get into it without too much trouble. Some Batman recommendations, shall we? So the first one, I am cheating a little bit because this is a very famous story, but it's one that I think should be recommended for a reason. It is my favorite version of the Batman origin story, and that is Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. And for my money, yes, this is better than The Dark Knight Returns. It's tighter, it's leaner, the art is just visual poetry. I mean, let me just look at this. Like, just absolute cinema right here. Even though I'm not even talking about a movie, I'm talking about a comic book. But the artwork of David Mazzucchelli in this artwork, in this comic, I mean, is just absolutely peerless. I mean, he just captures the gritty style, while also capturing the mythic grandeur of Batman and what Batman is. This is the comic that really made Batman cool again, aside from The Dark Knight Returns. And for my money, this is better. And for my money, Frank Miller has never been better. It's very controlled. Even the parts where he monologues quite a bit feel deliberate here. Nothing really feels out of place here. And I do put this over Daredevil Born Again because I find the climax of this book is far more believable and also far more satisfying, at least for me personally. It doesn't quite have that over-the-topness of Born Again that I've mentioned in some other videos in the past, even though that is also a great story, and I have covered it on this channel, so I'm not saying that Born Again is overrated or anything like that. It's a great story. I just think that Batman Year One is even better. I think the climax is a lot better done. The artwork is just phenomenal as it is in Born Again, though I will grant, I do think the artwork might be even a little better in Born Again. But let me just, again, David Mazzucchelli, this was the last thing he ever did in mainstream superhero comics, and it was a great loss when he decided to leave mainstream superheroes and kind of do his own thing. I mean, look at that, just absolute visual perfection here. Look at that cover, man. Like, just look at that. Just Absolutely incredible. Incredible stuff. Really brilliant storytelling from a master at the top of his field, and in my opinion, the best thing Frank Miller has ever done. Batman Year One, absolutely peerless. If you want the definitive take on Batman's origin story, there is no other comic that does it better. So, not really much else to say on that. Next comic I have here is one from another long-lost legend who has sadly passed this mortal coil, but a comic that is kind of an underground kind of an underground classic, if you will, sort of cult classic, and that is Batman Ego by Darwyn Cooke, the late great Darwyn Cooke. I won't say this is as good as The New Frontier. I don't think anything's going to match The New Frontier's greatness, but I think Batman Ego is a really great story told by Darwyn Cooke, and he brings his very retro, nostalgic style, but also captures the gothic, almost surrealistic grandeur that is Batman, as Bruce Wayne goes up against his alter ego, the Batman. It's really good stuff. I really love the artwork in this. Darwyn Cooke has a very interesting style. It's very much in that kind of Batman, the animated series style of Bruce Timm, but he really makes it his own here. Like, it's just a really great story about guilt and compassion and empathy, and if Batman goes too far sometimes. And it's kind of Bruce Wayne confronting that kind of demonic, Freudian... what's the term I'm looking for? Shadow self. That's Jungian, not Freudian. But it's basically Bruce Wayne confronting his shadow self in this book and wondering if Batman is actually a good thing for the world, which, sure, that's a lot of stories that deal with Batman, but Darwyn Cooke really captures what is interesting about Batman and why he endures as a character. And, there's also, in this particular volume here, there's also some other really good stories. There's a good Catwoman story in this tale, in this comic, and also we get some Tim Sale artwork in this, which is also a lot of fun. And also the Catwoman story, which is very much kind of like Parker, but with Catwoman in it. Generally good stuff. I really enjoy it a lot. And there's also some other pretty solid stories in this, but Ego and the Catwoman story are really the best ones in this particular volume. But Batman Ego is a bit of an underrated book, even though Darwyn Cooke is very well beloved among comic book fans. And if you haven't read The New Frontier, go read it. It is really a great read. And this one's a very good read, too, and a very good Batman story, I think. It's a really wonderful take on Batman versus Bruce Wayne and why Batman's humanity is so important to the character, because if Batman did not have the humanity of Bruce Wayne, he would basically just turn into the Punisher in a goofy costume, to paraphrase something that what was it? Overly Sarcastic Productions said. Next comic I have here is actually a more recent one, and one that kind of blew up because the new movie came out not too long ago, and that is Batman the Imposter by Mattson Tomlin, and of course the great Andrea Sorrentino. This was a very good work. A kind of different take on Batman, and one of the best Batman comics I've read in recent years. This is a very magnificently paced, very interesting take on Batman. And there's also some really interesting differences between the mainstream Batman and the Batman in this. In this comic, Alfred is not there. It is basically Bruce Wayne on his own, basically trying to be Batman. Leslie Tompkins makes an appearance in this book, and there's even some interesting reimaginings of older characters like the Ventriloquist, who you might know from Batman the Animated Series, and also Ratcatcher makes an appearance in this. But basically the story is about Batman taking on, he's in the early years of his crusade, and a imposter shows up, someone dressed up as Batman, and has started just shooting people and killing people, which the regular Batman does not do. And also Batman, Bruce Wayne, ends up getting into a relationship with a cop in this, and it is really fascinating. Really great artwork from Andrea Sorrentino. I love the shadows. Really love how he panels. Especially you see it in his work that he does with Jeff Lemire, but I think he does some really great work here. I really love the kind of gritty, almost unhinged, surrealistic style um of Andrea Sorrentino. And if you're a fan of The Batman from 2022, this is definitely a good comic to read alongside that, because you can tell that Tomlin was really taking from that story when he was doing this. And he's also co-writing the script for the new Batman film, which is I'm hoping it will be good. And after The Penguin and just how great that was, I'm really hoping that the new Batman movie will be really good. But this is a really good comic to read if you're a fan of Batman. And just great artwork, great storytelling for the most part. Very, very good read. I quite enjoyed it a lot. So, yeah, give this a try. It's a good read, especially a good Halloween read if you want something a little spooky. That isn't the long Halloween, that is. Next comic, sadly, I do not own it, but it's definitely one that I think is one of the most underrated Batman comics, written by one of the most underrated creators in comics, and that is Batman Venom by Denny O'Neil. And few comic creators really go underrated as Denny O'Neil does. I mean, forget Frank Miller. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams were really the people who brought not Frank Miller, Batman, though Denny O'Neil did help Frank Miller really kind of capitalize on what Denny O'Neil had already done, and then he did The Dark Knight Returns, which was like, whoa, now Batman's back, even though Batman was already coming back in the 70s. Whatever. Denny O'Neil is a very good writer, and Batman Venom is a very underrated story. It's Batman taking on addiction, pretty much. He starts taking venom after he makes a very crucial mistake. And he starts pushing himself, he starts, going harder, and eventually he gets hooked on something called venom. Some people might recognize it as the same drug that Bane takes in order to get his enhanced strength. Batman ends up taking it and basically turns into a complete psychotic maniac. I mean, he doesn't kill people, but, he definitely becomes more violent, more angry. He starts being much more reckless, and then he realizes, holy crap, I have a problem. And the story basically turns into Batman trying to master addiction, and oh boy, what a story it is. It is really, really great stuff. Denny O'Neil really gets the character of Batman, and he really just is just excellent at capturing the urban crime superheroes. He was very much the Brian Michael Bendis of his day. He was really good at the grounded street level superheroes, more than something like the more cosmic heroes. Though he did do Green Lantern and Green Arrow, which is apparently very good. I've not actually read that one, even though I really like Denny O'Neil. But Batman Venom is a standalone story. You can read it on its own, and it really gives you an idea of what Batman is, his limitations, and kind of how he deals with his limitations. And also, it's just a really great story about a guy trying to kick addiction, and who better to try and kick an addiction than the world's greatest detective, and also the world's most obsessive, controlling guy tries to kick addiction. It's really, really good stuff. Very good story, and one I think is highly, highly recommended by me. The last story I shall recommend is actually from one of my favorite comic book writers. Geez, my hair is just going all over the place today. But the comic I will be talking about will be one from one of my favorites, and that is Ed Brubaker and Doug Mackey's Batman: The Man Who Laughs, which is a retelling of Batman and the Joker's first meeting. It's kind of a sequel, kind of, sort of, follow-up to Batman Year One / Batman The Killing Joke, which I did think about recommending on here because I love Alan Moore, and I do highly recommend that story, but I decided against it. I felt it would be a bit too obvious. But Batman the Man Who Laughs is a very great story from Ed Brubaker. He doesn't have much time for... and Ed Brubaker is just, I think, one of the best comic writers working today. The guy's a master storyteller, a master of pacing, a master of suspense, and he really gets the character of Batman. He's really good at getting into that kind of crime noir feel, while also capturing that grandeur that is the Batman's character. And he also gets the Joker very well, too. Sorry, my head is just scratchy. It's probably from wearing this hat. Anyway, Batman the Man Who Laughs, which is also a reference to The Man Who Laughs, which is the Victor Hugo novel, which also inspired the Joker's creation. I mean, a lot of people would probably, a lot of hardcore comic book fans would probably know that Joker was inspired by The Man Who Laughs. And they do play with that a little bit, but it's also kind of Batman dealing with an enemy that he has never dealt with before. If you were a fan of The Dark Knight and were really fascinated with Batman dealing with that series of escalating threats, you could really see that theme be played with here as Batman deals with a criminal that he has never dealt with before. I mean, yeah, we know who he is, the Joker, of course, but it's also Batman trying to figure out who the Joker is, what he wants, and why he's doing what he does, and ultimately realizing that he is dealing with something that he can't understand. And, again, standalone story, you could read it in a sitting. It's definitely not it's not very long. You don't have to commit that much to it, and that's the same for all of these. You can read most of these books in a sitting, maybe two if you really are busy. But it's a really, but yeah, Man Who Laughs is a really good book, and Doug Mackey's work is really good. I really enjoy his art style. And also, I forgot to mention the art style in Batman Venom was really good too, but what can I say? Nobody's perfect. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and happy Batman Day for everyone who celebrates like me and are just a big Batman fan. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do you guys agree? Are you guys interested in any of these stories? Are any of you Batman fans yourselves and have your own recommendations in the comments section below? Please let me know. Am I wrong about The Dark Knight Returns? Do I think that in my thinking that Batman Year One is better, which it is? But if you disagree with me, feel free to let me know. Tell me why I'm wrong. I would love to know that. And yeah, check out the comics I've recommended. All 5 of them are excellent stories. And all 5 of them are definitely stories that I think are very, really captures who the character of Batman is at his core. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Find me on social media. I'm on Twitter, and I'm also on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Instagram and on Blue Sky. I'm starting to get the hang of Blue Sky. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this list. Do you guys have your own picks? Let me know. As my buddy John Minton likes to say, when you press that like button, it feels good. It gives you a little pep in your step. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, won't say too much more. See you guys later.